Okay, so how do we approach potential group? A lot of people are a little anxious about getting out of their comfort zone. So stepping away from your desk and literally going out into town, going to the Chamber of Commerce, going to a local church, doesn't even have to be your church, and wanting to talk to the worship leader or the minister of music that's going to take a choir on a trip to see cathedrals in London. Whoever it is, really putting your feet to the pavement and getting out there is your number one way to do it. If you have a great following in social media, then that's great. But if not, there's nothing short of better than you approaching people personally on your own. You need to be vulnerable. Now, what do I mean by that? You know, we talked about a gatekeeper. My dad was a salesman, a medical salesman, and he used to talk about the gatekeeper. Well, the gatekeeper was just the receptionist. And he would go in, before he even asked to meet with the doctor, he would go in and see the receptionist, just say, hey, my name's Jim Crutchfield, and I brought you girls some cookies. That might sound sexist to say it that way now, I'm sorry. But he'd go in and say to the nurses and everything else, and he'd go to the receptionist and say, I brought y'all some cookies, or I brought y'all some pens, and I just wanted to say hi, I was in the area, and he'd split. And he'd do that a couple of times, building up that relationship and getting them to trust him, so that from there he'd say, hey, is it an opportunity for me to meet with your boss or the manager or the decision maker, or in this case a doctor? Be open, shields down. You got to think about being a little bit defensive. In this world that we live in today, I think we're all very hardened and become very defensive about things. And I think if I walked in with a bunch of brochures and a briefcase and all ready to go, they'd send me out the door. It's kind of like the Comcast or AT&T salesman. I got a better internet for you. And you tell them no way. Or they come to your front door with magazines in their hand. You go, no way. So let your guard down. You really need to think of approaching a group like an interview. When you go in for a job interview, you don't go in like that. You go in, like I said, vulnerable, open, not defensive. Be flexible. So a lot of times their ideas sound crazy, and you need to work with them, and you need to be able to show them that there is a way to do what they want to do. It needs to be their idea. I had a group come to me that wanted to put a semi-tractor trailer rig on a cruise ship. The only way that they could do their incentive trip was they give away a truck, and they want to know how they could put a truck on a cruise ship. It's crazy, but I told them absolutely we could do it. Turned out to be a little bit more expensive for them to do it that way. We found an alternative. They were able to work with it. Be a partner to them. When you sit down with a group leader, you sit down with a group, if you seem like you're just a service provided to them, then that kind of pushes them away, and they're going to use you. And I mean use you. Use you, abuse you, talk about you, and probably throw you away and find another guy later to do the same thing with. But if you use terminology where you say, we're going to partner together, incentive companies, car dealers, companies like that, they really want to hear that partnership. Anytime you're doing any kind of fundraiser or working with these organizations, they want you to be a partner to what they're doing. So WIFT, what's in it for them? And what's in it for them is that they have adopted you or hired you to be a partner in putting together their potential group. So you need to go to them and say, these are things we can do to do this together, and you need to set yourself up as a partner with them. Ouch. Be helpful. Explain what makes you unique and how you plan to help them. So it's all about you at this point. They can call a cruise line and book their group themselves. Why use you? They can contact a tour company and book a tour themselves. Why are you at their door? They can go to a resort like Sandals and make the arrangements for their next wedding group. Then what's the point? You have to explain to them in detail about your knowledge, about your expertise, about the marketing that you're going to do for them, and how you're going to help them facilitate from beginning to end every piece of the puzzle that will make sure that their group is not difficult for them, but enjoyable for them and creates memories. Stay consistent, stay on point, keep really good notes. Use your CRM and keep really good notes in your CRM. If you have to use a spreadsheet, if you use a flip chart, if you use a chalkboard, I really don't care what you use, but use it. Use it, keep notes, follow up with the guests. Every time the guests ask you to do something, when you do it, make sure you follow up. Remember, we said that it's like an employee. You're an employee, they're the employer, you're partnered with them, so you need to keep them involved. Follow up with them, and don't make promises you can't keep. Be real professional. We're in a casual business. Leisure travel, a lot of times people like to wear shorts and flowery shirts. And, this isn't a tough business. But with groups are looking for somebody that has a little bit more of a business mind to them. Yes, it is casual. Yes, it is relaxed. But looking sharp, making sure you get solid answers for them. It's okay to say, I don't know, but let me find out. Then you're going to follow up, as we said before, keep that promise and give them the information. Cover all the details with them each and every time. These are the types of things in being professional that will really make you stand out. You stand out to be different than them just simply calling a resort and saying, I need to book my group. So the last thing we're going to talk about is their ideas. So, there's no light bulb in the socket, or the light's on, no one's home. It's where I kind of got this idea from. So insert a light bulb before turning on the electricity. You need to get the thought to be their thought. So based on your experience, you should have some really good ideas, but be very careful. If you take your really good idea to somebody and it's not their idea, chances are you didn't put a light bulb in, the electricity won't work, it's not going to fly. But if you can make them think that it's their idea, I hate to say it, but it's a little bit of child psychology. If you just take some simple psychology and you have some really good ideas and you listen to them, listen to your group leader, listen to what their expectations are, listen to what they want, and you take what they want and then you feed into them some of the experiences you have had, and you put those ideas in their head, and it's going to go really, really well. So make sure, again, you're talking to the decision maker. Make sure that you know what their goals are. It's very important that you find out what's the last time they did this type of travel, or what did they do previously and how did that work out for them. Where do they usually hold events? If it's an organization and you're talking about taking them on a cruise and they normally stay at a resort, they normally go to Orlando and they stay at a conference center, and now you're going to take them someplace else and do something else, or vice versa. You have to know the differences so that when you share it back with them, it clicks in their head what you're trying to bring to the table. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the marketing. How do they communicate with their members? Very early on, you need to know about their database. They may be I've heard this 1,000 times, they're a musical group and they're going to charter the ship. Really, how many people follow you on Facebook? 10, and 3 of them my family. So when you find out what their database is like and how they communicate with them and what their responses are to those communications, very telltale, and it will help you out a lot. So you have to have a real clear understanding when you're qualifying your group, and put these things together in such a way that, remember, you're partnering with them, and so you need to bring all this to the table so that they feel confident using you for their next group.